This is the Conservatives Hour, December 16th, 2016. I want to finish the theme for today, which is about Russia and Syria. And I want to talk a little bit about the fall of Aleppo. We have had a lot of rhetoric about the war in Aleppo. And I believe that most of it is disinformation. And we're hearing this talk. It's a disaster. It's a humanitarian disaster that a group of radical Islamists fought to the end in one little corner of Aleppo, requiring the Russians to escalate their tactics, their aggression against those people. The battle in Aleppo is not about this mythical, totally mythical idea that these are free Syrians fighting in Aleppo against the brutal Assad. These were not free Syrians. These were radical, very radical. It represented a group of people who thought ISIS was too weak in this little corner of Aleppo. 90% of Aleppo was taken a while ago. In one part of eastern Aleppo, they dug in and fought to the death. They fought to the death using civilian shields. So when we get this rhetoric from a lot of people that is wrong, this rhetoric that the Russians are killing civilians in a war against civilians is dead wrong. I'm going to try to explain this. We have rules of engagement. And those rules of engagement, part of the rules of engagement, affect how we treat civilians in the war zone. The United States position, which Donald Trump is going to change, which everybody in the Donald Trump sphere and the Republican sphere want to change, what they want to change is to say, right now, if there's one civilian or two civilians that might be harmed, you got to get 20 generals to approve attack. You just sit there waiting for approval. You probably won't even get it. Okay, that's the rules of engagement that the United States exercises today. The Russians have especially when a place like Aleppo crops up, they have a different set of rules. For them, if we let ISIS have civilian shields, they're just going to continue to use those shields forever. Russia decides that they're going to change the rules of engagement to allow civilian casualties when they have a military target. There's absolutely no evidence that any attacks from Russia and Assad have been directed directly at civilians. There's always a military target. The United States, if there's two civilians we don't attack, well, I don't know what the number is with Russia. It could be 1,000. Even if there's 1,000 civilians in the way, shielding the radical terrorists, we're going to attack. Now, one can argue about that. Okay, maybe what is the number? Who's got this magical number of risk to civilians? And where does the United States get off? Now, I'm going to. This is the country that bombed civilians directly in Dresden, that bombed civilians directly in Hamburg, that bombed civilians directly in Tokyo, that harmed civilians directly. We targeted civilians in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In World War II, we targeted civilians. Where do we get off? I understand this is worthy of discussion. It is. How many civilians need there be for you to have a military target and attack the military target, even though 100 civilians are going to get killed, or even 1,000? This is not, you're evil if you kill any civilians, which is the rhetoric I'm hearing all the time. There is absolutely no evidence that Russia targeted civilians in Aleppo. There's all sorts of evidence that the enemy, the radical Islamists in eastern Aleppo, all sorts of evidence that they use civilians to shield their military targets. It's complicated, but this idea that this is war crimes in Aleppo is if I see evidence, real evidence, all we're getting now is the same thing about this hacking crap. The same thing. Oh, an anonymous source says that they're attacking civilians. The CIA gives a briefing, said, oh, they're attacking civilians. I do not trust the CIA. I do not trust the spy agencies. Why? Because they're just another government agency. We have to be skeptical of this stuff. And in Aleppo, the story is not being told properly. This is an issue of how you treat civilians in war. And it's an issue that war is hell. War is hell. And my hope, I contrary to all you other people, I don't want another war. I want to get out of the Middle East. I want other people handling the Middle East because it is a quagmire that will not end. I want peace, but peace comes through strength, not weakness. And in Syria, the strength right now is Russia. I believe, honestly, that Trump understands this. I believe, honestly, that Trump understands this. And we are going with better relations with Russia, not worse. This rhetoric coming from every corner is ridiculous. With better relations with Russia, we will have a better world. And we can step back, and the Russians can step back from war. This is the Conservative Czar. See you next time.